on social media, you see people's like meal prep days where they have all of the containers of food like already made. And I look at that and I think a couple things. One, I think I don't want to do that. Two, I could do that, but then I get home and I don't feel like eating that. Or it's all, it can just be like kind of intimidating, right?
Yeah.
So how can we do some prep but still leave ourselves room for like flexibility? Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jen Trepic, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jen Trepic. Before we tackle today's topic, if you like what you've been hearing here on Salad with a Side of Fries and want simple tips for improving other parts of your life, check out Tiny Leaps, Big Changes, a podcast hosted by Greg Clunis. It's all about personal development in bite-sized chunks. Take note, actually, of episode 386 featuring me, Jen Trepic, where I introduce how to eat to burn fat. So that's Tiny Leaps, Big Changes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. All right, so today's episode is all about setting ourselves up for success and quite literally setting ourselves up. So we're talking about the grocery store and the kitchen, and I know you guys all know that I eat my way through life with takeout and delivery. So I'm here with an expert. So our guest today is Bailey Cohen, a health supportive personal chef here in New York. Bailey trained at the All Natural Gourmet Institute and focuses on local, seasonal, organic ingredients to create delicious and healthy meals for her clients, many of whom have a lot of various, dietary restrictions. And so we can learn a lot, right? So welcome, Bailey.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's dive right in. Tell us your story about, becoming a chef and in particular, and a health coach and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in South Florida where I was lucky enough to be surrounded by a lot of different farmers markets and healthy options, along with growing up in a very health-oriented family. So I grew up cooking a lot and always kind of having that passion in the back of my mind. I then went to university where I did not study this at all and realized I really wanted to move in this direction. So I ended up becoming a health coach in my later years of college so that I could shift gears. And that's where my passion really grew in terms of working privately and working one-on-one with clients and kind of helping them, reach their goals, whatever it is, whether it's diet related or exercise related or, a combination of that and many more things as well. So once I graduated from college, I went to culinary school in New York and really, developed my passion even further and got more of a nutrition background. And since then, I've been working as a personal chef and helping clients with weekly meal prep or serving for special anniversary dinners and events like that.
Nice. So I know when you go, prep for a client, you typically do the shopping, but what do you recommend for your clients? Like if you're going to make recommendations for them to purchase at the store and have on hand, like what do you typically recommend people always have around, like the fundamentals we want to have?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think, there's some basics that everyone can kind of overlap with, which is really, when it comes down to it, just lots of fresh vegetables and fruit and some healthy grains. And I think that once you have those few staples, you can really do a lot with them. You can create different healthy bootables throughout the week or different salads or, there's really so many options there. So I like to switch up my grains from week to week and also each week try to buy at least 1 to 2 different leafy greens. And I think those are really good staples. And then from there, kind of create different recipes using those things.
So give people some examples, right? So the leafy greens, a lot of the typical ones that I think people would get are like spinach and kale, but like arugula or Swiss chard. Like what are some of the other?
Yeah, so it's nice if you have maybe even a list of like 5 to 7 different greens and then try to keep them in rotation, because then you can use them for things as simple as being a salad base, or you can saute them, or you can add them to smoothies, which a lot of people don't necessarily think of. But for example, if it's something like Swiss chard and you might not love the taste as much as something like spinach, then you can kind of drown it out a little bit by adding a lot of fresh sweet fruits into it and add it to a smoothie just for a little bit of variety in your diet.
And the grains you mentioned. So let's talk whole quality grains, right?
Yeah.
Like not just rice.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah. So there's so many now that kind of used to be really popular that are now coming back into rotation, which I'm sure a lot of you are getting to be more familiar with, like things such as quinoa and farro and of course lentils and things like that. And so it's really important, along with rotating those as well, but to also use them in a safe way, in a proper way. So it's really recommended to try to soak your grains ahead of time because it helps with digestion and it kind of just cleanses them really well and also speeds up the cooking time. So I think by doing that along with rinsing them, and then if you just make one big batch for the week, it's similar, you know, if you make one big thing of that or cut up the vegetables for the week or cut up the greens for the week, you can then kind of just toss them into any meal, and it's really simple for that.
Yeah, and so what you're talking about as far as you know, soaking your grains. Guys, what we're talking about is really buying the whole grain, right? So we want to stay away from the boil in a bag rice, you know, the more processed grains, because remember, the more work the machine does, the less work your body does. So you want to make sure that you're buying the whole grain, and then Bailey's tips can help us cook them, you know, in a simple way.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking also about, you know, when you purchase fruit, it's kind of similar in the sense that it's always more beneficial to purchase the whole, if fruit or vegetable in that sense, I guess, the entire full whole product, like a full watermelon that, even though it is more work on your part, to then cut up and serve, as opposed to buying it pre-cut and de-seeded and this and that. It takes away benefits and also freshness. So
yeah, so like, I don't know, you have to pick your battles, right? And what's going to make it work. I mean, sometimes buying the vegetables already cut up is what makes it easy for you. And if that's what allows you to eat the vegetables, then by all means do that. You know, when I did go to the grocery store and I would buy things already cut up, like one of the things I would notice is that they would go bad faster than if I bought, you know, the whole vegetable. So let's talk about kind of proteins for a minute. And like, how do you choose proteins? Like, what are a lot of people, you know, when you go to the butcher counter or you're looking at the, you know, packaged raw proteins, like a lot of people have no idea what they're looking for. So how do we know if something's good or, you know, what to pick?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of factors with that as well. And it really, you know, of course, it is definitely preferred to purchase organic and grass-fed and that, but the labeling definitely does get confusing. So that also does come down to personal preference when you're talking about what cut of meat you prefer and everything. But it's definitely helpful to go to an actual butcher or a store that really focuses in that instead of a pre-packed meat at a grocery store. You never know necessarily how long it's been sitting there, and it's fresher if they can cut it right there for you and really customize it to your liking.
Awesome. All right. So I typically recommend to my clients that every time they go to the grocery store, they purchase one new food that they've never had before. And we start that on the vegetable side and then sometimes some fruit. So what are some things that people probably haven't tried that you would recommend and some tips for preparing them?
Yeah, I think that's a really cool suggestion to try to get something new each week. And to go along with that, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's really important to also try to buy one leafy green vegetable each week and use that however you wish. But in terms of trying something new, I think something really interesting that most people definitely don't think of is jackfruit. And this actually comes down to buying it whole as opposed to already semi-prepared for you. And this is certainly more convenient to buy it already in a can because they can be quite large and difficult to deal with. But besides that, they're really versatile, and you can, along with being a source of protein, it also really aids digestion, and it's good for healthy hair and eyesight, and also helps regulate blood sugar. And you can flavor this. It kind of absorbs almost anything that you want to put into it. So it's really popular to go barbecue style and add it into sandwiches, or even do more citrus flavoring and add it onto a salad. And it kind of just adds, along with variety, but also some different nutrition factors into your life as well.
Nice. So tell everybody, how do you identify jackfruit?
Well, I think it originates in like Thailand, and they're pretty smelly and huge if you buy them whole like that. If you would probably look at it in a grocery store and honestly be really confused about what it is, it's pretty spiky and like 4 times the size of your head probably. But they do have it conveniently in cans where you just need to make sure you rinse it really, really well and thoroughly. But then after that, it is pretty easy to use.
Awesome. All right. So let's say we're now home from the grocery store. What do you suggest for how to prep and like set up everything that we just bought so that it's really easy. And, you know, like I said, when I did go to the grocery store, you know, I also used to say, like, I don't cook, I make food, right?
Yeah.
So how can we make it easy to make food? And I know you guys are all thinking about this, like, you know, on social media, you see people's like meal prep days where they have all of the containers of food like already made. And I look at that and I think a couple things. One, I think I don't want to do that. Two, I could do that, but then I get home and I don't feel like eating that. You know, or it's all, you know, it can just be like kind of intimidating, right?
Yeah.
So how can we do some prep but still leave ourselves room for like flexibility?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, like you mentioned too, seeing everyone's pictures and things like that can definitely be overwhelming because the people who post the pictures are the people who spend hours and hours on it making it look perfect. But in reality, it really doesn't need to look like that, and it's a convenience for you. So there's no pressure in terms of making it photo perfect or anything. It's really something just to help your life and to make it easier and have healthy food more convenient. So I always recommend buying, you know, like we said, whole fruits and vegetables, and from there just prepping it in whatever style is best for you. So for example, if you purchase carrots, cucumber, and celery, and those are going to be your 3 main vegetables for the week, you can start just by washing them and then cutting them super quickly into whatever form you like best, into different rounds or into sticks or a variety of shapes like that, and just package them all individually, because I think it helps not only keep them more fresh, but also if you're coming home from work and you don't know what you're going to be craving for dinner. So instead of coming home to an already made meal, you can kind of just quickly assemble it by yourself if you have everything ready. You don't even need to take out a knife. So having all the vegetables just cut up, and then when it comes down to the grains and the proteins too, at the beginning of the week, just by cooking up one big batch of lentils, and then if your next week you want to do brown rice or the next week you want to do quinoa, by having that one batch on hand makes it really convenient, and it really doesn't take too long if you just do this all in one sitting. So having everything prepared like that definitely helps. Yeah,
so that also makes the argument too of like the day you go to the grocery store and the time you're blocking out for that, include the time of this prep in the time that you're blocking out of your schedule.
Yeah, definitely. And we also talked about some ideas where it comes down to different salad dressings or different sauces can really, really amp up your dishes and make it more exciting to come home to instead of, you know, just spinach and quinoa and cucumbers. But if you have a really awesome flavor to add, it adds diversity to your dish, so you're not having the same thing every day, and also adds a lot of nutrition depending on what you put in those sauces. So that's another way to get sources of protein. If you add, you know, seeds and nuts as your base, that's a really healthy way. Then you can add in different flavors like citrus or Dijon and olive oil, and those flavors, first of all, will last really well in the fridge if you have a jar or a container to keep that in, and also just spices it up.
So let's walk everybody through that for an example. So like, let's say we're going to make a salad dressing that has a nut base. So like in a food processor, you're putting your nuts or seeds or whatever. And then how do you do it?
So one of my favorites that I normally do for that is a cashew-based dressing. So I'll soak cashews ideally the night ahead of time, but if I don't know I'm making it or you're in a hurry, you can either just quickly boil them in some water or just rinse them off and it should be totally fine. And then add those to a food processor with I do about 1 lemon juiced because it adds a really nice kick. And then it's really up to your taste preferences, but add 1 to 2 tablespoons of Dijon, some salt and pepper, and then either some olive oil or some water, also just depending on your preference. And just blending that up in the food processor and just keep on adjusting to your taste and just make as much as you want throughout the week. But definitely by adding the nuts or the seeds, it definitely bulks it up, and also, like we mentioned, really adds nice protein.
Yeah, and can like make it kind of creamy too. So you feel like you're eating some of these dressings or condiments that you've probably cut out.
Right. And it's also a really healthy source of fat. You can also easily add avocado into that. That makes it really creamy without adding too many other unhealthy fat sources. So that's really great as well.
So that's really cool, right? Like we can create our own salad dressing. I sort of love that idea to like change it up and keep things interesting. So another way to do that is like herbs and spices. So what are the things that maybe you recommend people always have, and maybe something that we don't necessarily have, or combinations of things that people maybe aren't trying?
Yeah, definitely. I love working with a lot of different fresh herbs because you can also try to pick what's seasonal at the time. So a few of my favorites are chives. Well, chives is my number one favorite, but I really like that along with rosemary and thyme. So you can add those into any of the dressings and just blend it up. That adds a really nice kick of freshness. Or even just by mincing them up and adding that to the grain that you're cooking that week is also a really nice way to sneak that in. So that's also a good idea to maybe pick one fresh herb each week, and then you can also add that into your salads, and like the whole sense of things kind of just rotate around to what you're using. And then in terms of using different spices, it's really fun to make your own like spice blend and try to incorporate maybe some new things that you haven't tried before, such as like turmeric or maybe a 5 spice or something. And by making your own blend, it's so easy to just pour that on your favorite vegetables to roast up in the oven that night, as opposed to mixing and matching all different flavors every single time. It's fun to make, and then it's just also more convenient.
Yeah, so I definitely think the average person is not necessarily using like 5 spice or turmeric. So like, are those better on proteins or on your vegetables or both, or it doesn't matter? Like, how do you?
Yeah, well, so a lot of those you can really put on anything. I know it's really popular these days to do kind of like a 1-sheet dinner bake, and you just put everything on the tray and just bake it all together. So a lot of those spices, especially like garlic powder and pepper and cumin and things like that, you can really just spice everything with. It doesn't make it as exciting, of course, if it all kind of tastes similar, but they really are so versatile and you can use them on anything. Turmeric is also a really good one, just in terms of antioxidant fighting and everything like that, and really good with digestion. So that's a really good one to use. Just beware that it does stain. So that's the main thing with turmeric.
Yeah. Okay, and like kitchen gadgets, right? So I have this food processor that is super tiny, and not that it matters clearly because I don't cook anything anyway, but I know people love like the spiralizer to make like noodles out of their zucchini. But what are some other like easy gadgets that we should all really have to keep it simple?
Yeah, it's a good question because there's really gadgets for everything now. It's kind of crazy, like a banana cover to travel with, like
a friend of mine has that.
Yeah, that you just, you can buy a million things if you really want to. So my go-to is not too complex, but really just the basic lemon squeezer is really so helpful, honestly, because you don't have to worry about the seeds getting in. And I put lemon and lime on almost everything, so that is so convenient for me. And even if you don't think about it at the time, it really makes a difference. So I use that all the time. I do use a spiralizer as well. You can get a small handheld one for literally a few dollars and basically swirl any vegetable and have noodles, and it's awesome. So that's really popular. You can try that out with cucumber and zucchini and carrots or sweet potato. So that's really awesome to have as well, and doesn't take up that much room. Another favorite is a microplane, which is kind of like a small, thin grater. And this also I like it. It's small. New York kitchens, good to have some things like that. And this just adds a lot of extra flavor. You can basically put anything on this, like garlic or ginger and things like that. And it kind of turns into a paste along with zesting different citrus items as well.
Nice. And I also always recommend, like, I'm not big on garlic, but a garlic press makes using garlic way easier. And like, what's your feeling too on, like you can buy the jar of pre-minced garlic versus, I mean, I sort of know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment on that actually too, because it is definitely more convenient, but not only is it obviously not as fresh, but there's so many unnecessary ingredients that are added into things like that, like preservatives and everything. So in my opinion, it's way better and also more flavorful to even just use something like a garlic press, which takes like 1 second to just press fresh garlic instead of having that in the jar. There's obviously no oil added and no preservatives or anything like that, and the flavor will definitely be better as well.
Awesome. So out of curiosity, like, what do you make for yourself? Like, you come home, you're also cooking for other people. Then when it comes to yourself, like, what do you make for yourself to eat?
I definitely use a lot of the tips that I just recommended in terms of, I definitely make my own salad dressings and vegetables and things to keep in the fridge. And even though I do meal prep for a living, I don't always do that for myself. So sometimes I will make one big batch of something like a chana masala, like a potato dish, lasts really well for me. And I come home from clients starving all the time. So I need something really quick, and I don't want to spend that much time on myself. So I'll either put together a salad with any of the ingredients I have, like a big batch of greens and vegetables or one of my homemade salad dressings, or I'll pre-cook some sweet potatoes for the week and just have that super easily also.
Nice. So what are your favorite resources or guides or books for recipes and stuff so that we can get more creative and kind of push ourselves?
Yeah, there's so much out there. I actually love watching different videos on YouTube, and there's so many people who really just do this totally full time now, and all they do is just come up with these amazing recipes. So there's a few people on there that I like a lot, and they also have blogs that go along with that where they have all the recipes like fully written out. So since I do a lot of plant-based cooking, I really like Sweet Simple Vegan along with From My Bowl and also Minimalist Baker. So those are 3 that are really good because it's a really nice variety of recipes on there. They're really hearty, and there's nice warming soups along with a few like healthy dessert options, which are really fun to kind of switch it up also.
Nice. And I know some of you guys are working with me in our program, and we have a ton of recipes for you. I'll put a couple of these links in the show notes so that you guys have them and can find some easy recipes. All right. So now we want to ask you a few questions that we ask everybody, and they're sort of off topic. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So what's the best thing you've done for your health this week, and what's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week?
Ooh. All right. Best thing was going to Orange Theory. I really needed it. So
nice.
that felt good. And the worst thing was probably...
Naughtiest.
Oh, naughtiest thing. Sorry. I don't know if it's necessarily naughty. Haven't had too naughty of a week, but probably just going to bed way too late last night. I knew I had a big day and had a million things on my mind. So that was definitely not the healthiest decision.
Yeah, sleep is so important, and we forget it. And listen, I'm the first one to be like, it's fine. I don't need to sleep anymore. Like,
Exactly.
to kind of push that.
Never want to go to sleep, but then in the morning, it's a regret. So
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a big one. I'm gonna have to go with type 1 diabetes.
Yes.
As my sister has that and was diagnosed when she was really young. So for me, that's just been kind of a really big part of our lives. But there's so much out there, and there's so many things that you just wish you could do for a lot of different sicknesses. And, eating healthy hopefully should help a lot of these, but that's definitely a big one for me.
For sure. If you weren't a chef, what would you do?
It's a good question. Also, oh my goodness, if I wasn't a chef, I would be unhappy. I would definitely want to stay in the industry and maybe just go more towards the health coaching end of things.
Nice. If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Ooh. Can it be chef related?
Sure.
All right. Then to automatically have everything cut up and prepared for me without needing to touch anything would be great.
Right? Wouldn't we all like that?
Yeah, just look at it and it'll basically be done. That would be great.
Yeah, the essence of this whole episode.
Yep,
right.
Yep, basically.
Okay, what's your favorite book on any topic or even fiction except your area of expertise?
Oh, that was obviously what I was going towards. Oh my goodness. That's a hard one for me. I honestly really mainly read within this genre.
All right.
I have no idea. I was going to say Forks Over Knives. Big recommendation.
All right.
But it is in my field. So.
Right. All right. We'll let that one go. Your biggest pet peeve?
A messy kitchen. These are all too related to the
totally.
fields, but it really is the worst. So
I also say, like, if you go to a restaurant, the cleanliness of the bathroom, we were talking about this on a different episode too, right? Like the cleanliness of the bathroom, you can relate to the cleanliness of the kitchen.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy. All right. And finally, in your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
It's already kind of taking place. The whole like plant forward movement, I think, is huge. I think honestly now though, there's been so many recent studies too about how like millennials, like such a high percentage of them have been incorporating so many more fresh fruits and vegetables than there was even like 5 or 10 years ago. So I think that used to be more of like a rumor, or people thought that was a trend to be so vegetable forward. But now I think that actually is really happening, and that's really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's really how we should eat, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's nutrition. That's vitamins and minerals and nutrients.
Right.
So.
And even people too, kind of like maybe some older people or people who just have eaten the same diet for so long have always kind of revolved their meals around having a meat center. And now people are starting to be a little more open to the recent studies and everything, and are trying to revolve their meals a little bit more around having a vegetable focus, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, Bailey, thank you so much for being here and helping everybody. Tell everyone how they can connect with you and find you and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. And yeah, my website is baileythechef.com, and my Instagram and everything is linked on there as well. So that's definitely a good center point to find me. And if you have any questions about either meal prep or just different ways to live a healthier life, I'd love to talk to you. So just reach out.
Yeah, so Bailey, Bailey, thechef.com. Of course, you guys know me. I'm Jen Trepeck, your host of Salad with a Side of Fries. Find me on Instagram at Jen Trepeck, JenNTrepeck. And all of these links are in the show notes on the episode, also on our website, saladwithasideoffriespodcast.com. So have a great day, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much.
Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.